and welcome to the Rush Roundtable. This is episode number 264 already, we've realized. So, number 264 brings us up to the song Hope on Snakes and Arrows, which we've been obviously talking about for a while. A rather short song, 2 minutes and 2 seconds, unaccompanied with Lerxst on guitar. The idea that it's actually credited to Lerxst Lifeson. Well, with me, I have the Pauls to talk about it. It's also been floated that for all we know, this episode might be called Alex on Alex because my name is Alex, and we're going to talk about Alex Lifeson's unaccompanied piece that is not Brunsbane. So, what else can we say about it that I haven't already said? So he's using an Garrison, what did I write? AG 412 string, tuned in DAD AAD. Now, if you drop yourself onto the good people of Wiki page, someone there called it a modal tuning because people like to call DADGAD, D-A-D-G-A-D, a modal tuning. It's really more of a drone tuning. I mean, D's and A's, if you're in the key of D, D's the root, A's the fifth. It's really a drone. It's very, very common in the Indian music world, which brings me to a little bit of an article I was looking up from EQ Magazine, September 2007, where they were discussing the recording of the acoustic guitars on the album. I mean, they were discussing the whole album, but as far as the acoustics went, the reference was that it conjures up the sound of Jimmy Page interpreting Indian music atop the rolling hills of Ireland. And I thought, that's a good way to say it. Because at that point, songs like Kashmir, they certainly work as a droning song. And even though I put together a chord progression, kind of analyze the chord progression, it doesn't really have a chord progression. It kind of does and it doesn't. Now, as the host, I'm saying an awful lot. I feel like I should open it up to you guys. But, I just kind of went off. I didn't even reference that people should look at our merchandise shop. I didn't even say anything about Ko-fi and donating. It's almost like I'm kind of like hitting people with the commercial that's a few minutes or a couple of minutes into the episode, like so many other YouTubers do. Just saying. I honestly
it's
didn't.
Because you're passionate about.
Yeah,
the
I honestly
guitars.
wasn't. I really wasn't trying to fish people in. I really am just remembering it right this second.
But do check out the links to our sponsors,
Yes.
which you will also
Yes.
find below, which we appreciate.
And maybe we'll mention that at the end of this really, really long episode because we have a 2-minute song to talk about with no lyrics.
Right. What I'll throw out there is a little factoid, just so I could justify my existence on this this episode. It is the second shortest song that Rush has recorded. BU2B2 came in at 128. This comes in at 2 minutes and 2 seconds, like Alex said. Next would have been third with Need Some Love at 216 and Malignant Narcissism at 217. So it is the second shortest. Other thing was. The live version of this off Snakes and Arrows Live was up for a Grammy in 2009. It lost. It was Rush's sixth Grammy nomination. It actually lost to Peaches and Regalia from Zappa Plays Zappa. Dweezil Zappa's tribute to Frank. So Frank's music. So I actually saw a live version of that on the Craig Ferguson show, and it was an excellent piece, no doubt. So if you got to lose to something, that's a good. That's a good performance to lose to. So,
but we still lost.
It's the Grammys. Anyway.
Yeah, basically. So. Yeah, it's sort of.
But I do like the fact that and it may
they don't try to cater to the Grammy crowd, right?
Yeah, right.
So I've heard.
Since Neil did refer to this at one point as a secular prayer, which may or may not come up shortly, the other little thing I want to throw out there is in keeping with the album's theme of the lover's quarrel with the world, Robert Frost epitaph. I think it fits in kind of nicely because you do need a dash of hope on there. So, and obviously the title of the song coming from the next song we'll be talking about next week, which will be Faithless. So,
which stands to reason that Neil had that in his head at that point in time, just to sort of think of his lyrics for Faithless and referring to hope as a secular prayer.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon for certain bands or certain writers to come up with hope as a title, because obviously hope is a powerful and rather important aspect of human existence. The idea that, what of the things that drive us onward, Hope is one of those things that does have a positive energy to it, and in certain times, really, really necessary to be able to feel like you have that available to you. So kind of fitting.
And as an amateur guitarist, just even the chords that Alex chooses for this, there's a lot of things being resolved in it.
Mm.
I'm sure you know the more technical terms, but I like the fact that when you have songs as heavy as Far Cry in theme, not just I mean in dark music, Armor and Sword, Spindrift, all these heavy topics we're covering, and musically they're very thunderous and very not dissonant. Well, some of them have been a little dissonant, but this is very like you're breathing. I like this. It's sort of like that little past the halfway point. Give me a breath, and calling this hope just kind of fits.
Yeah,
It shows the versatility of Alex. He can, have really hard riffs, or he can have a beautiful melodic song. It's just.
And speaking of that versatility, Paul, you've got a couple of quotes.
Yeah, one came from Getty. He says, "That's the thing about Al. He's so spontaneous that if you walk into his room in the studio, he'll be playing something that you'll want to run out and record. 3 minutes later, you'll ask him what he just played, and he'll say, 'I played what?' That's my story about our relationship. 'What was that, Al?' And he'll say, 'What?' He did Hope live. We left him alone twice. But I thought the first take was good enough. I was standing in the booth, and I said, 'That's it.' While I'm at the editing table or doing my vocals, you can hear him in the background jamming on the guitar or sleeping on the couch. I have the demos done for this album where you can hear him playing something or snoring in the background." Right?
We need those tapes.
And he said he follows up with, "Neil echoes the same sentiments about his bandmate. Alex can just pick up the guitar, and even though he's not paying attention to what he's doing, Getty will say, 'What did you just play there?' And he'll say, 'I don't know.' In the most beautiful sense, Alex never knows what he's doing."
Yeah.
Pretty much sums it up.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, much like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speeches, as far as Neil leading off with the intellectualism, Getty bringing in the heartfelt, just directness, and then Lifeson winding it up with just some comedy. The idea of having the variety of personalities to create a solid unit.
Right. This is why it's always important to record when you're just jamming or just strumming or just to, because if you don't remember how you did a specific thing, then at least you can go back and try to recreate it.
And the idea there, I mean, digital makes it so much easier. I mean, you don't have to rewind this or cue up that. Actually, speaking of the technical aspect, for anyone who is thinking technical, so essentially, they had the Garrison's onboard pickup plugged into a Countryman Direct box and into a Nave 1064A preamp, and then the direct signal was actually put down on Pro Tools. Which, because I was looking through that just to think, okay, did they not mic it? But then again, maybe they didn't, because usually certainly they had, Telefunken tube mics and whatnot. I mean, you're recording for the big leagues, you have everything available, but at the same time too, some guitars just sound good. And in going direct, certainly you might not have a certain room sound, and maybe they just had a mic running at the time. I didn't see that in my reading, but certainly there's the definition that gets put down there from the directness of the direct box. Now, ABAC form. ABABC. Sorry, yes. ABABC. Not Abacab. That's a different band. But Lifeson plays an A section, B section, repeats that, and has an ending section, the C section. Mostly a lot of D major and minor tonalities, kind of mixes them up. The A section definitely has the D major, D minor 7. B section moves through a lot of major tonalities. And of course, a lot of suspensions. One thing you could hear someone like Joe Satriani talking about are the use of suspended notes, 4s and 2s to kind of drag the melody somewhere. And obviously, someone like Lifeson's doing that more intuitively. Yeah. But
I was reading the notes that you put down about this and how they recorded it. Like they had to put carpet down to stop the reverb and keep the echoes, you know what I mean, clean, to keep them off. And what they call it? What do they call them? Half circle of gobos to finish the reverb time and space. It's almost like Neil when his drum setup. He had a whole bunch of walls, like, gosh, so bad with this, like acoustic dampening, just to try
Yeah,
to focus the noise, because the room is so ambient. It's such a big room; it would just echo all over the place, right?
the Great Hall.
Mm,
Well, and obviously that's the case of the matter that you figure you want to have that flat, straight sound, so that way you apply the reverb you want
mm.
instead of just sort of, how's that room? Well, okay, this is fine, but what if we didn't want that much reverb? So that's
Right.
where that direct sound on Pro Tools certainly helps nicely, just to say, all right, let's lay down this reverb. Now let's use a different reverb. So
And I will share the artwork
nice.
from the album as we have with all of them. Start off with it actually shares a frame with the way the wind blows. So that's the full piece.
Right.
And then for the
Oh
close-up.
yes. Right. The right hand side of the picture.
Yeah, and for the close-up, it is here. So that, as Hope, I think is beautiful. I would
Yeah.
love to be able to take a shot like that someday. So
But this is the first guitar instrumental, like since Bruins Bane, really.
Yeah, basically.
And
Yeah,
Bruins
I mean
Bane and Bruins Bane was, wasn't really a studio track. It was just an add-on to the concert, right?
yeah, just kind of
And
an
it's like
intro to the
and
intro
Peaks
of the
Repose
trees.
Peaks Repose is the last, right? And it's just the three. I was trying to think before we started, and that's all I came up with.
Hmm.
Actual named Rush Alex songs.
Well, and also, I mean, you figure at that point in time, going in the 80s, it was very, very, post new wave synth era. It wasn't really an acoustic guitar type of situation, and he wasn't necessarily going to be going hog wild in some Yngwie or even Eddie type of shred. So the idea there is that it makes sense that through the 80s, if the acoustic popped up, it might have just been a lower in the mix overdubber on um, Mystic Rhythms. Thank you. And but yeah, once we get into and through the 90s, especially with his solo album, he started exploring that stuff so much more.
Yeah.
And there is that natural organic vibe with the acoustic nature of it. So, and that 12 string has the shimmer. There's sort of a certain
This
magical quality to it.
Yeah. My favorite
just
instrument by far.
it's just it's a full sound. You know what I mean? It's not. Uh, it's hard to describe. I'm not a guitar, but it's just very a full sound. This 2 minute song at the end, that last chord he hits, and you can just hear the strings vibrate. It's just like, this is so cool.
That was essentially, what did I have there? Did I have something? I didn't write that down, did I? The C section began with the big D power chord, is what I said. But yeah, I mean, he was essentially moving his drone and his melody notes lower and lower, so that it just kind of worked its way down at that point. So most of those melody notes that were kind of attached to drones in the C section were more on the D string. Usually the usual D string is what I wrote, not the low D for the drop D. It's like, oh, D and A. Well, we got three of each, so pick one.
Yeah.
But anyway, what else could we say about that? I feel like, as we said almost 15 minutes ago, that we got a 2 minute song, and as I said before we began recording, I can actually talk about an 8 measure chorus for the span of 30 minutes because I've been teaching guitar for a long time. But at the same time, too, I'm trying to get someone to play it. So that also responds to what someone else can do on the other side of the room or the other side of the screen. So anyway, thank you for joining us while we talk about Hope. One of a bunch of instrumentals that began appearing on Snakes and Arrows, and we even got some more of that going on maybe on that next album, which I know some people like the Gettys of the world would look upon as their favorite album. Maybe even some Pauls look upon that as their favorite album, or maybe second favorite. So, but anyway, yes, thank you. This was episode 264, where we've been talking about Hope. And again, so that I do remember it, yes, looking below to check out the merchandise shop, stickers, t-shirts, just the fun of it. Ko-fi's the thing. We have affiliate links, right?
We do.
So they could still just keep checking under there. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this on like TV, you might not see it, but if you're on your computer or phone, you could check it out. But otherwise, you can just wish us well. And on the next album, people will be wishing people well. So thank you for, as again, joining this discussion of the Rush Roundtable for Rush fans. And with me, as always, are the Pauls. No Garth, sorry, he didn't show. But
it's all good.
See you next time with Paul's hosting Faithless.
Yep.
So next week for Faithless.